Hi y'all, today you are taking your first assessment in Intro to Lit. Your page looks different than mine because you are looking at Illuminate. So you will see the test, the readings and questions in the majority of your screen. And then kind of to the right side, you should be seeing your questions, okay? And I don't have those questions, but in this first video, you are going to be listening to the first reading so that you can answer the questions, okay? And I will also show you how to look up words that you don't know. So let's go ahead and do that now. Go to this website here, learnersdictionary.com, and just leave that open on the side of your document so that as you're going through, if there are any words that you don't know, you can look them up in this box here and press the search button, okay? All right, first reading. Read the selection and choose the best answer to each question, then fill in the answer on your answer document. The 1928 Packard by Richard Peck. The other day I was making a speech somewhere about being a writer. Afterward, an old gent in a slouch hat came up. Now I'm going to pause for a second. If I didn't know the word gent, I could go to Learner's Dictionary and I could type gent into this box here and press search. And it's going to tell me that it's a man, right? It's a gentleman, okay? So I didn't know that word, so I went to Learner's Dictionary and I looked it up. That's the only time you'll see me do that because I'll expect you to do that as you go through for the rest of it. So if you need to look up a word, you will pause this video, you will go to Learner's Dictionary and type in the word, and then come back to the video and continue listening, okay? All right, so afterward, an old gent in a slouch hat came up. He'd brought his grandson, who he said was a faithful reader of my books. "Do you have time for a story?" the grandfather asked. Of course I had time for a story. I'm a writer. His gaze grew filmy, and his grandson looked like he was about to hear a tale he had heard before. At around 14, I was a handful, the old gent said. So you know how busy I was around Halloween. My dad drove a 1942 Buick 8. I stirred. I too was from a world where a man was known by what he drove. At the other end of our street, a beat-up old 1928 Packard coupe was always parked at the curb, big as a Tiger tank. He had my full attention now. I ought to have known better, he said, but I dearly loved pinning horns. Pinning car horns was a sacred Halloween ritual. If you could get into a car, you jammed one end of a stick into the horn and wedged the other end against the back of the driver's seat. Then you ran like the devil, and the owner had to come out and unstick the horn before the battery ran down. Horns went off all over town on Halloween like car alarms do every night now. I skulked in the dark street, the old gent said, and like a miracle, the front window of the Packard was down. Why didn't this look too good to be true? I guess because I was 14. I hung on his every word now, though his grandson's mind was wandering. I had me a stick, just the right length. All I had to do was reach in the car window with it. I didn't even have to open the door. When I leaned inside with the stick, a hand shot up from the dark, and a fist the size of a ham grabbed my wrist. My heart stopped. I haven't been that scared since. The Packard's owner sat up in the seat and said, "What can I do for you, son?" "You can turn me loose," I said when I could breathe, and in 3 minutes I was back home in bed. I guess you know who the Packard belonged to. I did. It was my dad's. Who else would own a 20-year-old Hummer-esque Packard coupe for a fishing car? Who but my dad would lie all Halloween evening across the broken springs of its seat, waiting to catch a Halloweener just for the fun of it. And why couldn't the neighborhood kids remember that my dad looked forward to Halloween more than they did? It was Skippy Oglesby my dad nabbed that particular Halloween night. Skippy Oglesby, the nearest thing our neighborhood had to a bully. And there he was again, all those years and miles later, disguised by time as somebody's doting grandfather, to tell me another story about my dad. And why not? My father was the perfect dad. He thought like a kid, but he was bigger than a bully. In fact, he was larger than life, older than the other dads, but weirdly young, with a shoulder bunged up in World War I and a Harley-Davidson he rode to work on mornings the Packard's engine wouldn't turn over. A big guy with a big grin and lures on his fishing hat. Everything I write is an homage to him. Some of my stories are woven out of his memories. Some are memories of him. And some are things that didn't happen to him, to us, and I wish they had. But everything I write invites him back. Nobody a writer ever loved is dead. So now we're going to go to the questions. I will read each question out loud for you. I expect that you pause this video in between so that you can answer the questions on the right side of your screen in Illuminate. Okay? Question 1. In paragraph 2, the word handful means someone who is. So before I get to the answer choices, let me show you something. It says here, paragraph 2. So then I need to go all the way up to paragraph 2, find the word handful, and reread the sentence. So it says, at around 14, I was a handful. Okay, now let's go down to the question. It says, in paragraph 2, the word handful means someone who is A, difficult to manage, B, extremely generous, C, useful around the house, D, reluctant to help others. Pause this video, answer question 1 in Illuminate, and come back. Question 2. Read the following quotation from paragraph 8. Why didn't this look too good to be true? I guess because I was 14. In these sentences, Skippy Oglesby suggests that as a teenager, F, he intimidated others, G, he was naive, H, he liked to fool others, J, he often got into trouble. If you're struggling with any of the words in this question, please look them up on Learner's Dictionary. Pause this video, answer question 2, and come back. Question 3. Which paragraph from the selection provides imagery that gives a sense of the father's personality? A, paragraph 14, B, paragraph 11, C, paragraph 13, D, paragraph 7. You must go to all 4 of these paragraphs in the actual reading. We'll start with paragraph 14 so you can see it. And you are looking for imagery that shows the father's personality. If you don't see it in paragraph 14, move on to the next answer choice, which is paragraph 11, and so on until you have finished. Pause this video, answer question 3, and come back. Question 4. By asking a series of questions in paragraph 12, the author emphasizes his. Okay, so now we have to go back to paragraph 12. We're looking for the series of questions. Who else would own a 20-year-old Hummer-esque Packard coupe for a fishing car? Who but my dad would lie all Halloween evening across the broken springs of its seat, waiting to catch a Halloweener just for the fun of it? And why couldn't the neighborhood kids remember that my dad looked forward to Halloween more than they did? Okay, now let's go back to our question now that we've reread those. Okay, so by asking a series of questions in paragraph 12, the author emphasizes his blank. F, uncertainty about what motivated his father. G, belief that his father was unique. H, doubts about the details of Ogilby's story. J, hope that others will appreciate his father. Pause this video, answer your question in Illuminate, and come back. Number 5. What did young Skippy Oglesby and the author's father have in common? A, knowledge of motorcycles. B, an inclination to bully others. C, a love of pranks. D, storytelling skills. Again, if you don't know any of the words in the question, you can't answer it correctly. So you must go to Learner's Dictionary to find out the definition. Go ahead and pause, answer number 5, and come back. Number 6, in paragraphs 1 and 15, the author shows blank. So we need to go back to paragraph 1. The other day, I was making a speech somewhere about being a writer. Afterward, an old gent in a slouch hat came up. He'd brought his grandson, who he said was a faithful reader of my books. And 15. Everything I write is an homage to him. Some of my stories are woven out of his memories. Some are memories of him. And some are things that didn't happen to him, to us, and I wish they had. But everything I write invites him back. Nobody a writer ever loved is dead. Back to question 6. In paragraphs 1 and 15, the author shows F, his realization that some of his memories are exaggerated. G, his skepticism about the distinction between truth and memory. H, his desire to be a role model. J, his awareness of himself as a writer. We have finished with the first reading and set of questions. When you have finished, close this video and open the second video, reading aloud for you the second reading and questions.